Hey, everybody, welcome to your Money Map, sponsored by the Alliance for a Lifetime Income. On this Federal Reserve Decision Day, markets are up because interest rates are down by half a point. If you're wondering what all that frenzy is, that's the excitement in the air. But we've got our own share of excitement here because we are going to be talking about one of your favorite topics. We are going to be talking about Social Security, about what you can do as you head toward retirement to get as much as possible from that system. We'll also be talking about your fears around Social Security, your worries, and we welcome you, as always, to this conversation. Whether you are watching us on Facebook, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn, if you want to talk about Social Security, if you want to ask my guest a question, just go ahead and post it in the comments. We'll be happy to weave it into the conversation. Once again, I'm your host, Jean Chatzky. Very glad to have all of you here today. And let me just kick it off with a question. Are you worried? Are you worried about the future of Social Security? If you are far from alone. Some new research from the Alliance for Lifetime Income shows that Americans routinely claim Social Security early, in part because they doubt the program's solvency or they fear future cuts in the program. Given recent headlines, those worries are not necessarily unwarranted. According to the 2024 Social Security Trustees Report, the program's primary trust fund, and there are several, but the primary trust fund will be depleted in 2033. Barring any reforms enacted by lawmakers, that translates to a 21% cut in benefits for recipients. So, what does that mean for you? What does it mean for your retirement plans? My guest today is here to break it all down. Emerson Sprick is the Associate Director for the Bipartisan Policy Center's Economic Policy Program. He leads the team's work on retirement and financial security. Before that, he spent 3 years at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He's a grad of the University of Missouri and Georgetown, and we are so excited to have him with us today. Emerson, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Jean. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about Social Security.
Yeah, as am I. It usually gets people going. So I am excited to dig in. Let's start by just setting the stage, as I did a little bit in your introduction. In a report that was released earlier this year, it projected that Social Security's primary trust fund will be depleted by the year 2033. That's if Congress does not act. And that translates into a 21% cut in benefits for those receiving Social Security. I know that 21% cut is not expected to be across the board, and we'll talk about what happens if it does come. But before we do that, how did we get here?
Well, the last time I'll take a step back. Social Security used to be reformed fairly regularly by Congress. In the mid 20th century, it was passed in 1933, and up until 1983, it enjoyed fairly regular updates, updating the parameters of the program and making it work better, making sure that it was fiscally sustainable. The last time Congress reformed the program, though, was 1983. And it did so at the 11th hour then, saving the program from insolvency and an across-the-board benefit cut. And since then, the program has turned into what a lot of people call the third rail of American politics. The longer we have gone without touching it, I think, the harder it has been for members of Congress to fathom the idea, the political repercussions of getting back into it. And so for a long time, we've known that in the early 2030s, the trust fund is going to run out of money. And we've known that it's going to lead, unless Congress acts, to a significant across-the-board benefit cut. But Congress hasn't acted yet. And so, like I said, that the longer it goes, both, I think, the harder it gets for Congress to act, and the harder the problem gets to solve. The magnitude of the problem gets bigger, and the time that we have to implement solutions gets smaller.
When we talk about the Social Security Trust Fund, as I alluded to, there are several. Can you just explain how this trust fund is structured so that we understand what we're talking about here?
Yeah, sure. So Social Security, as we think of it, retirement benefits, is actually called the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Program, or OASI. OASI has its own trust fund, and it's by far the biggest trust fund. Um, OASI is often grouped in with disability insurance. That's also administered by the Social Security Administration. It's a similar program. Disability benefits automatically become OASI benefits when you reach full retirement age, and so those two programs are inextricably linked. Often that program has its own trust fund, the DI trust fund. And then there are other trust funds kind of throughout the government, primarily, in Medicare and the hospital insurance trust fund, as well as the highway insurance trust fund and some unemployment insurance trust funds. But the two trust funds that we really think about in terms of Social Security are OASI and DI. And often those two are talked about together, OASDI trust fund. The problem is that they are two separate entities, and Congress does not have the authority to use money from the DI trust fund, which is in much better shape financially, but is much, much smaller, to pay OASI benefits. So we're talking about two dates here. The OASI trust fund, the big primary trust fund that funds old age and survivors insurance benefits, that is projected to run out of money in 2033. A theoretical combined OASDI trust fund would not run out of money until 2035. Again, DI is pretty small. It delays trust fund depletion to use those funds, but not by much. The problem is that, it's kind of misleading to talk about the OASDI trust fund because that too would require an act of Congress.
So to combine them together.
Yeah.
I mean, these dates are very interesting to me because I've been following this issue as a personal finance reporter, as you might expect, for decades now.
Yeah.
I started working in personal finance about the last time that Social Security was reformed. So it has been a very, very long time. But the date at which the trust fund is expected to run out of money keeps getting closer. What does that have to do with Peak 65? We're in this period of time where, as the Alliance for Lifetime Income likes to refer to it, it's the peak 65 zone. More people are turning 65 every single day than at any other point in our history. How is that impacting the clock?
Yeah. Well, what that does is it skews arguably the most important ratio for trust fund solvency, and that is workers to beneficiaries, right? The program, the foundation of the program has always been that workers paying payroll taxes today are funding the Social Security benefits of today's retirees. A lot of economic and demographic factors have changed over the past 40 years since the last time Social Security was reformed, right? But a really important one is this peak 65 moment where you have a bit of a shock to the system. There simply aren't enough workers paying payroll taxes to support the retirees, the baby boom that we have retiring today. And so, I think that over a period of a couple decades, I think it took a while for the trustees to be able to accurately predict that, right? But for the past 14 years, the projected depletion date of the OASI trust fund has been within a 3-year window. It's somewhere between 2032 and 2035. So it changes a little bit every year as we get closer, things get more defined, we get a better idea of what the world is going to look like then. But it's been remarkably consistent. We have known for a very long time what is going to happen and when.
When you talk about that 21% reduction, and we're going to get to solutions in just a minute, but when you talk about that 21% reduction, the the mechanics, as I understand them, is that the trust fund is not allowed, once it's dried, to pay out more than it takes in year to year. So you just don't have enough money coming in. And everybody will get a 21% haircut eventually. Is that sort of how you think of it?
Yes. So we know that when the trust fund is depleted, the payroll tax revenues coming in will only be able to cover, in the aggregate, about 79% of the benefits that have been promised, that people have earned throughout their careers based on the current benefit formula. What we don't know is how SSA cuts 21% of benefits off the top. And I will preface this by saying I don't think we're going to get to a point where SSA is going to have to figure this out. I think Congress will act. Whether it's at the 11th hour or not remains to be seen. But in a hypothetical world where Congress allows the trust fund to become depleted without taking legislative steps to deal with that, you're exactly right. The mechanism by which that 21% benefit cut comes into play is a little bit unclear, right? The most straightforward way to do that would be to reduce every beneficiary's benefit check every month by 21%. There's a little bit of uncertainty as to whether SSA has the authority to do that. So another option might be that SSA receives a tranche of payroll tax revenues and it pays out benefits until it can't. And so about 79% of beneficiaries receive their whole benefit that month, and about 21% don't. And over the course of the year, everyone gets about a 21% benefit cut. But again, it's really hard to tell what would happen because SSA's never had to do it, and I don't think they're going to have to do it this time. The question really is, can Congress make sure that doesn't happen in a productive way? In a way that creates real, stability for today's workers and retirees, and kind of predictability about what's going to happen, so that people can adequately prepare for retirement.
Well, what you described, with some people, 79% of people actually getting a check and 21% not getting a check, but getting a check later, it sounds like a budgeting nightmare in a nation that already doesn't know how to budget. So
Yeah.
I hope that you're right and that we don't get there. I believe that you're right and that we won't get there. I think we would have rioting in the streets.
Yes.
But the question that I have is, what are the levers that can be pulled so that we don't get there?
Yeah, it's a good question. On one level, it's a math problem, right? Revenues come in, expenses go out, and right now we are taking in less than we are spending. And so there are two ways to address that, either by taking in more or by spending less. On the tax side, we all pay, for the most part, 12.4% of our income to Social Security taxes. For folks who are in kind of traditional employment, 6.2% of that comes out of my paycheck, and 6.2% of that comes from my employer. But the burden of that tax is on the worker. So we all pay 12.4%. One way to increase revenue is obviously to increase that percentage. Another way is to increase the amount of earnings on which those payroll taxes are levied. Currently, you max out at somewhere in the $170,000 range. Above that, you don't pay payroll taxes, but you also don't receive any credit for benefits in retirement. So you could increase that taxable maximum to levy that 12.4% payroll tax, or a higher level of payroll tax on a greater amount of income. And there's some good argument for doing that. The last time Social Security was reformed in 1983, that taxable maximum, it covered about 90% of total national earnings. And right now it only covers about 82% because
Mm.
income at the top end of the income distribution has grown quite a bit faster than kind of median income. And so there's a decent argument to increase that taxable maximum to, cover 85% or 87% or back up to 90% of total national income. The other side of the solution is benefits, and in particular, cutting benefits, right? And so you can do that in a variety of ways by increasing the full retirement age. That is extremely controversial because it amounts to an across the board benefit cut. If you're receiving $1,000 at age 67 now, after the full retirement age goes up to 69, you would have to wait until age 69 to receive $1,000, and you'd get less at age 67. And that's particularly harmful to folks who can't delay for health reasons or other reasons, right? You can also kind of adjust the benefit formula to reduce benefits. You can do more means testing and reduce the amount of benefits that higher earners get. What BPC has always proposed is that this needs, for both political and practical reasons, addressing this problem needs both revenue increases and benefit adjustments, but benefit adjustments that make the benefits more targeted to those who rely on them most in retirement. And so, a plan that we have released in the past includes a full retirement age increase. But at the same time, it includes what we call the basic minimum benefit, which increases the minimum, baseline benefit any beneficiary can expect to receive. And so while it is true that, really we have two mechanisms for shoring up kind of the long run financial solvency of Social Security, tax increases or benefit cuts, having a complete package that actually modernizes the program, makes it work better for folks who rely on it, we think, like I said, is both a political and a pragmatic necessity.
So when you say it modernizes it, you mean this is the sort of system that would shift with the times, that would not necessarily need additional revisions down the road? Because I got to tell you, I've had conversations with you before. I should be honest about this, and I'm worried about our kids. Right. I know that you believe that people in their 50s, people who are close to drawing on their benefits, are actually going to get their benefits. But when it comes to our offspring, you're not so sure. Can you explain?
Yeah. So, the best way to visualize this is just kind of how it has gotten harder over time to address this problem. So in 2024, if we were going to solve the 75-year problem, SSA looks at this in 75-year windows, and there are pros and cons to that, but that's just kind of how we view things. If we were going to address that entire problem through a tax increase today, it would require a payroll tax increase of 3.33 percentage points, a tax increase from 12.4% up to about 15.7%. 10 years ago, it would have required a tax increase that was 15% smaller. And, in 2035, thinking about the combined OASDI hypothetical trust fund, the tax increase would need to be 21% bigger. It would need to be more than 4 percentage points so that our new payroll tax rate would be 16.4%. That increases the payroll tax by nearly a third from what it is today. And so when we talk about, when we're thinking about this intergenerational equity question, today's retirees and near retirees didn't pay enough to sustain the program. And that's not their fault. That's lawmakers' fault. But what that means is that their children now have to pay more. And they're going to, they're not going to receive greater benefits of it. They're paying more so that the program would exist in its current form for them. It's the same story if we reframe this and talk about addressing this problem solely through benefit cuts. Today, if we were to address the problem through benefit cuts, the across the board benefit cut would have to be 21%. 10 years ago, it was 17%. In 2035, it'll be 25%, right? So, these are all real. There are real intergenerational issues. And then when we talk about how it's becoming harder and harder, the addressing this problem, it's becoming more and more likely that it's going to require some kind of maybe short-term borrowing from general revenues. Right now, Social Security's finances are walled off from the rest of the federal budget, but it might be the case that we have to, break that structure, at least temporarily. But borrowing is just another intergenerational transfer from younger generations to older generations.
Let's talk about claiming. There was a research paper that was written by one of your colleagues, Jason Fichtner, several years ago, and it showed that retirees collectively are going to lose 3.4 trillion with a T dollars in potential income because they claimed Social Security at a financially suboptimal time. They were going to lose an average of $111,000 per household. How and why does this happen? And could you maybe talk us through an example of somebody who is 62, entering this peak 65 zone and is facing this decision?
Yeah, sure. So the average Social Security benefit right now is about $2,000 a month. So we'll just use that as an example. Let's say that's someone's what's called a primary insurance amount. Primary insurance amount is just, your benefit calculated using the standard benefit formula, and SSA says that that is what you are eligible to receive if you claim benefits at age 67, which is the current full retirement age. For every month beyond that you delay claiming, that benefit gets bigger. And for every month before that you claim, that benefit gets smaller. So, the differences are significant. For someone with a PIA, a primary insurance amount of $2,000, if they claim 5 years earlier at 62, the earliest age at which you can claim, their benefit gets cut by 30%. They only receive $1,400 a month. And if they delayed until age 70, they would get almost $2,500 a month instead of $2,000. The reason that that's the case is what are called actuarial adjustments. So, a long time ago, SSA created these adjustment factors because if you're claiming at age 65, you are going to be receiving benefits for fewer years than if you claim at age 62. There are a couple reasons that, folks should still consider claiming later than they might. One is that those actuarial adjustments are out of date. And so really, research suggests that for the vast majority of people, their lifetime benefit receipt will actually be larger if they delay claiming, even though those actuarial adjustments are supposed to make it so that you receive approximately the same in lifetime benefits regardless of when you claim.
Delay till 67 or delay till beyond 67 or 70? Delay as long as possible?
That is an intensely personal question, and one that everyone should discuss with a qualified financial professional. In terms of, the overwhelming majority of people, research shows would be better off by claiming at age 70, which is the latest you can claim. Of course, that's not possible for some people.
Correct.
And that's an issue in itself. But I do want to talk about there's more than just lifetime benefit amount here, right? It could still be worth it to delay claiming, even if you were going to receive a little bit less over the course of your life. And the reason for that is actually in the program's name. It's called the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Program. And that insurance part is the most important part, right? Social Security was never intended to be a pension program. Rather, it insures you against the lost income due to old age. And what you accomplish by putting off claiming for a few months or a few years or all the way to age 70 is increasing that baseline level of income that you can count on for the rest of your life. And so, Social Security is completely inflation protected. It is guaranteed. It's the best annuity product on the market. And maximizing that baseline level of support, we think is really important as, life expectancies increase and people are really confused about how to take their defined contribution assets, this lump sum, and turn it into income for the rest of their life. Social Security does that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people don't really quite understand that Social Security is an annuity, a very
Right.
good one, as you point out, because of the cost of living inflation adjustment. If you do want to delay, if you want to delay claiming, what are some strategies that people can use to bridge their way there?
Yeah, I think the bridge framing here is really important. So the most powerful strategy to delay claiming is to keep working, right? Um, Even if it's just part time, right? Working to so that not only are you, continuing to earn and potentially save, at least cover your living expenses, but you're also not starting to draw down your accumulated assets. But we think that more people should really be looking into, even if they stop working at age 62, strategic ways to draw down their accumulated assets faster at the beginning of their retirement so that they can delay taking Social Security. And so what that would look like is, if your living expenses, if you're counting on a Social Security benefit of $2,000 and you're going to have other income of $1,000 a month from your accumulated assets, in a lot of cases it might make sense to, for a couple years, spend down $3,000 a month from your accumulated assets, and then claim Social Security so that it covers even more of the living expenses that you need covered, that $3,000, right?
Yep.
And so, we think that that can be a really powerful tool, and one that folks should, again, really talk to kind of financial professionals about, and consider in the context of their very personal finances.
Yeah, I think more than ever, talk to a financial professional
Definitely.
about this, because these days many of us have money in traditional retirement accounts, 401ks or IRAs. We've got money in Roth accounts that have a
Right.
totally different tax
Right.
treatment. And the strategy involved in figuring out which buckets to draw money from while not messing up your tax bracket, and if you're 65 or over, your Medicare premium gets
Right.
really, really complicated. But your financial advisor has software to help you do this, and it's 100% worth a consultation. We are coming up very quickly on the presidential election. Unfortunately, we have heard very few specifics from the candidates about what they do to
Right.
address this insolvency. I think you explained why when you called it the third rail. But how do you believe this should be part of the election?
It's hard because what should be just isn't going to happen, because I think the dynamics of a presidential election would make it they makes it politically irresponsible to talk in a fiscally responsible way about Social Security. No one on the campaign trail wants to hear about a comprehensive solution to Social Security that includes a full retirement age increase that's offset by a basic minimum benefit, that rejiggers the benefit formula, and that increases the taxes, right? That's too nuanced for the campaign trail, and we're not going to get leadership from that from presidential candidates. What would be really helpful is if members of Congress got leadership from the White House, whoever is in it. Um, I think there are plenty of members of Congress who are willing to take this on, to start to have these conversations about what a realistic solution would look like. But again, because it is so politically challenging, they need their party leadership to give them some cover, to tell them it's okay, right? And to take some of the heat. That's the job of the president in a lot of ways. And so, I I work for an organization with bipartisan in the name. I am contractually obligated to be optimistic, but I think it is in no way overly pessimistic to think that Social Security is not going to be covered in any kind of rigorous way on the campaign trail. All we can hope for is that, once the next president is in office, they, step back from the no tax cuts or no benefit increases red lines that we've seen drawn by, members on both sides of the aisle, both parties.
So lacking that guidance from the candidates, let's get a little guidance from you. For those folks who are pre-retirees, what are 3 things that you would suggest that they think about doing right now or knowing right now as we continue to navigate these uncertain waters?
Yeah, it's a really important question because there are so many misunderstandings about Social Security. It is such a complicated program, and the more you know about it, the more complicated it gets, right? I think the number one, my number one busted myth is that even in a worst case scenario, Social Security is not going away. Even if Congress does nothing and allows the trust fund to become depleted, the worst case scenario is an across the board benefit cut of 21%. And that's really bad. And I'm not saying it's not, right? That would be a dramatic cut, and it would be financially disastrous for some people. But it's not zero, right? You'll still receive most of your Social Security benefits. The second thing, and it's related, is about claiming. And it really is that claiming later is almost always better. The longer you can delay, I think both the more likely it is that you're going to maximize the lifetime amount of benefits that you receive from Social Security. That's not true for everyone. Folks who know because of genetic predisposition or lifestyle that they have a shorter than average expected lifespan, that may not be true. For the vast majority of people, it is. But also, and just as importantly, what happens if you have a life expectancy of, say, 85 years, and then you live to 98?
Right.
Are your defined contribution, assets going to last that long in the way that you need them to? So what you're really doing by delaying is, again, setting that baseline level of income, of not just income, but purchasing power, because of how Social Security benefits are adjusted for cost of living every year, that you can count on for the rest of your life. And, the third thing is just reiterating, I am an economist and a researcher. I am not a financial professional. And talking to a financial professional about how Social Security fits into your broader financial plan and your defined contribution assets and your home equity and what's in your checking account, all of that are questions for a financial professional. And I think, like you said, Gene, it's more important than ever to at least have, a couple of those conversations.
Emerson, Sprick, thank you so much. If people are looking for more of your fantastic work, where would you send them?
Yeah, bipartisanpolicy.org is the Bipartisan Policy Center's website. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, which is where I am posting most these days, because I find Twitter more or less unbearable.
Good to know. I'm on LinkedIn as well. If you are looking for more, though, from the Alliance for Lifetime Income, we have a great retirement newsletter. Comes out twice a month. Lots of issues that relate to you and the issues that you are talking about and facing with your wallet and your finances every single day. You can subscribe to that at protectedincome.org/subscribe. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thanks, Emerson. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gene.
Bye.